In this class we're going to look very briefly at unfair trade practices and competition policy. Competition is an age-old phenomenon. It's been around since we lived in caves. We've always been competitive, and it's through competition that the strongest survive. In this sense, it's very similar to Darwinianism. It's survival of the fittest. And through competition we get good practices that come into the next generation, which we add upon, and so on. So competition is a very old phenomenon, and it leads us to become stronger over time, more competitive, better products, more efficient. So we believe that competition is the essence of good practice. That's the market perspective of competition. Now, competition has become a global phenomenon. Many countries who were previously not taken with the idea of competition have become competitive, and they are now joining into the arena of competition and competing with us in world markets. So the world has become more competitive probably over the last 20 years, more than in any other decade or in any other period in probably in modern history, to be honest. So the benefits of competition, well, companies benefit through efficiency. It forces companies to be efficient. There are cost-saving operations and better utilization of resources. So competition drives companies to be efficient. If they're not efficient, their prices will rise, consumers will turn against them, other companies will enter the market, will outcompete them, and the companies will vanish. So in order to survive, they must be competitive. As I said earlier, it's very similar to Charles Darwin, survival of the fittest. The consumer also benefits because the consumer gets a wide range of goods, and all the goods are at competitive prices. So the consumer benefits by getting the lowest possible price for a wide variety of goods. And of course the government benefits because it gets increased revenue in the form of taxation, taxation on the company and also on the workers who pay tax. So the government benefits. However, and there's always a however, all of these benefits are lost if competition is unfair or if it doesn't exist. So there must be some sort of regulatory framework within which businesses operate to ensure that the businesses are fair and that the benefits of this type of competitive behavior is spread out to the consumer, and it enables the companies to survive, provide employment, provide benefits to the consumer, and can compete in the global market. So there have to be some sort of rules and regulations, and for that reason we have developed competition law. The law has come into force in different countries at different times and is slightly modified according to local conditions, but essentially it's based on this idea of contract, the law of contract, which is covered in a separate module, and the law of torts. Torts are like contracts, except they're civil wrongs, except they are not contractual. And the laws usually involve concentration of economic power, restrictive trade practices, monopolistic trade practices, and unfair trade practices. So the laws usually try to correct the tendencies in the market to become, if you like, corrupt from the ideals which we expect from the market. So if we get concentration of economic power, we may have a monopoly, and the monopoly may put the price up for a product that we need. That's not fair. and perhaps that monopoly has come about by killing off its competitors through unfair practices. So there are a range of reasons as to why competition law comes into existence, but most countries now have competition law. Let's look at unfair trade practices and how unfair trade practices affects competition. Well, for a start, it could be that warranties are not based on lab tests. So, for example, it may be the case that the company says our warranties will be for so long, but it's not been tested. And perhaps it's guaranteeing the consumer as to the safety of the product when it hasn't actually been tested properly either. So in fact the product could be unsafe, or it doesn't do what they're saying it will do. All of this is a problem. The after sales guarantees may not be honoured. That's a problem. And again, it must be, the onus falls on the government to intervene here to ensure that the consumer is indemnified and compensated for anything that has gone wrong, which is not the consumer's fault. The consumer bought the product in good faith and finds it doesn't work, or it's dangerous, or it's wrong. So after sales guarantees may not be honoured by the company, and these have to be corrected. There may be competitions that are used to promote the product, and perhaps the competitions are fake. Perhaps the prize money is fake, or the actual whole competition itself is fake. And again, people bought it because they thought they were entering a competition in fairness, and that didn't happen. There may be some element of disparagement of competing products. In other words, the company tells the consumers that its competitors have a bad product, or it's a dangerous product, or it's unreliable, or it's poor quality, and this is lies. It's concocted to disparage the competition and to make sales, and that's not fair. It may say things in advertisements which are not right, and that also has to be corrected. It may mislead a consumer into purchasing the product when in fact the product is not suitable. The proverbial 60% off. It might say buy now and get 60% off, but it's never been higher than the existing price. Or it might be higher or on sale somewhere for a limited period of time as a way of trying to support this claim. But 60% off might be just an advertising remark when in fact it's never been that price before. So the competition commissions, as constituted in many countries, they have powers to look into agreements and to direct parties to agreements as how to behave in the context of that agreement. They can stop people from entering into agreements when they think these agreements are in restraint of trade. They can modify the agreement, say, well, the agreement can go ahead if it's changed in this way. And if all fails and everybody's adamant that the agreement's going to go ahead, even though the regulatory authority says no, then it may go to court and there might be a penalty, a fine. Many places, many countries and many jurisdictions say that the law really revolves on this idea that the enterprise should not abuse its dominant position, and we can identify from, again, what many countries do here, we can identify 5 broad categories here. One is imposing discriminatory conditions in purchase or sale of goods. It'll sell under certain conditions and it won't sell under others. Again, that may be against the public interest. It may sell in a way that targets a competitor and beats the competitor out of the market, but only does it for a limited number of time periods, and after which it puts the price up. So it becomes very competitive for a period of time until it kills off the competition, then it puts the price up and the consumer has to pay more for the product. That's not fair. That's reducing competition. It might limit production or scientific or technical development. It might cut back on the market to force the price up. So it's getting essentially the same revenue because the price is higher, the output is less, but it has less costs. It has less costs and less hassle in running the business. But not all consumers are satisfied because they can't get the product, and the product itself has not been developed. It could also use its dominant position to enter another market and abuse the other market, perhaps get in first and kill off existing producers or existing sellers by predatory pricing, by very low pricing at the start, subsidized pricing. When they're out of the market, it creates a monopoly in that market. Now, all of those are ways in which companies can abuse their dominant position. The power of the Competition Commission, well, it could fine the company if it's proven to be abusing its position, or it could issue a writ to tell it to stop behaving in this manner, or I suppose finally it could actually close the company down. It could close that aspect or that part or that branch of the company down if the company still was adamant in its behaviour and continued to do what it was doing before, which was an abuse of its position, an abuse of its power over the consumer. So all of these are situations where the regulatory authorities can intervene in the market to control monopoly power or abuse of the market. This is an issue that will crop up again later in other modules, specifically in the law modules. Thank you for watching.